Hi, and welcome back to the Animal Aspirations Podcast, a podcast sharing conversations with veterinary students, professionals, and people with animal-related careers. Our goal is simple: to educate, inspire, and diversify the veterinary profession. So, today we're joined by Dr Bolu Eso, a small animal vet who studied veterinary medicine in Budapest before beginning his career in clinical practice in the UK. Alongside his work as a vet, Dr. Bolu has also built a presence online where he shares insights about veterinary life, animal health, and the realities of the profession with a wider audience. Through his work, both in and outside the clinic, he's been helping open up conversations about veterinary medicine, well-being in the profession, and what the journey into his career can really look like. Dr. Bolu has been on an Animal Aspirations podcast before, where he spoke about his journey through vet school alongside Dr. Fabian, who is known online as the Dready Vet. We plan to have on in a future episode, so check that out. But if you're curious about hearing more about that side of his journey, please check out our Animal Aspirations channel. Hello, and thank you so much, Bolu, for joining us today. To start us off, we're wondering, why did you choose VetMed?
Whoa, we straight into it.
Yeah, let's get into it.
There's nothing. That was an easy choice for me. When I was a kid, I just wanted to help people with animals and trying to put us together. And VetMed was what made the most sense. And it's how I got into vet medicine. And then, like, you kind of, from an early age, decide what you want to do. Well, it might have someone to decide.
Yeah.
And then I just followed that path of trying to become a vet. It wasn't straightforward.
Yeah. So, like, what inspired you to specialize in small animal medicine? Like, instead of farming or exotic type work? Why specifically small animals?
That's a really good question. When I started out, at first it was amazed by medicine and the way the medicine changes and the way it constantly evolving, and learning new stuff in medicine. That was like amazing to me. So I was just drawn to all of medicine in general. And then when I got to university, I started learning about individual like species and all of that. We did a lot of work with horses in my school in Hungary. We did a lot of work with horses, and so when I saw the horse surgeons operating, I was like, oh, what are they going to do? They look kind of cool, like, and like you see your horse surgeon for the first time, and like, whoa, like, what is going on here? Like, and I was like, this is cool. But then I realized very quickly, like, when I did like my horse rotation stuff, I'm not in the horse world. I'm not a horse person. That like had any horses, that worked in stables, that ride, like, because what I knew from horses was from uni, whereas the horse environment felt very much like kind of know what's going on. Like, everybody knows what's going on. I didn't want to all the different races and stuff. So I was like, maybe the horse medicine. When I was younger, what really drew me into veterinary medicine was zoo staff with zoology and like the fascination of animals and adaptation. So there was part of me I wanted to do conservation work, but I realized that conservation work, I'd have to you'd have to be well connected to get conservation work and work. And I had students in my university who were like from South Africa, and their local vet was like a bush doctor to work with zebras and stuff. So they could go and do stuff with zebras when they went back. I was like dogs and cats. I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'll do it. So that was that. And then I was just kind of like, okay, what I do know is dog and cats. I know dog and cats. I've been doing that for a while. Stick with that. I mean, honestly, veterinary medicine's so vast. It's so broad that even when when I say dogs and cats, it sounds reductionary, but there's so much to cover in dogs and cats. Like, so, yeah, I kind of stick to dogs and cats. I want to try doing more exotics. I have friends that do exotics, but like, still, it takes a lot of I think it takes a lot of big learning curve and building up your case base and trying a lot of stuff. So that's going to be very, very fun.
How did you end up choosing Budapest as where you were going to study medicine?
Oh, great question. I had 4 universities that I applied to, I think. And I applied to Nottingham, Glasgow, obviously, and Liverpool. And they all rejected me. None of them did.
Are bad.
Nobody even gave me an interview, not even looking or whatever. I was absolutely devastated. So I was planning on taking a gap year. So the plan was to gap year, come back, maybe be set and A-level or 2, try and get my grades up and reapply again. But then when I came back from my gap year and I didn't quite get the grades I wanted, somebody mentioned about mainland Europe's like universities in mainland Europe. I remember having to go to Google to check up, okay, what is this? Found the Hungarian university, and they did that stuff with doctors, with dentists, for vets, like transfers from the UK to Hungary. And then I just found out about Hungary, found out about the admission process. There was like a liaison back then that helped us fill out our forms. And then when I went to Hungary, finally, and the rest was history. Like, it was like I just did the exam and boom, next thing I knew, what was there.
Now you're relish.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. A few years later,
So how do you deal with rejection?
how did I deal with the rejection? I mean, rejection's a hard thing to process in general. I think, like, as a human being, you'll have to get exposed to a lot of rejection. I think I was rejected by the first two universities, and the last university I was waiting for was London. So I was like, hang on. So the first day, everybody kept telling me through secondary school that you're going to get rejected, you're going to get rejected. Like, it's natural, especially when you're applying like arts, bridge, or medics. And so when you're applying for those kind of courses, because they're competitive, you're going to be rejected. So don't worry about it too much. So I got rejected by my first three universities, Liverpool, obviously, and Glasgow. And then I was like, okay, that's really, oh, that sucks. And I was just making enough that I was just really down and down. Like, that was really in my feels. And I think getting through it was very much like figuring out what my plan was, because I think when you're rejected, it needs to be disheartening buy-in. But when you figure out, okay, when you accept the rejection, that, okay, I have been rejected, I'm not getting into the place. When you sit down and be like, hey, what do I do next? I think that's what helps get through rejection. Like planning and pivoting. So like, okay, this happening, I need to make a pivot. I need to change. So I think that would be like, I think that's how I got through, was just looking forward to the future. And I'm a big person that I'm heavy on my faith as well. So people on my faith is going, well, let me get through my rejection. But get rejected often. Don't sit in it. And then plan forward.
Is that kind of the advice that you give to students now that are kind of going through that experience as well?
100%.
Yeah.
Rejection and failure. Just got to sit in it. Like, it's got to be bad for a little bit. It's part of every process. Like, nothing can happen without rejection or failure. You know what I mean? Like, things have to go wrong sometimes. If things are going well for too long, when we say to vets as well, like, as a new grad, it's like you can do so many which ways or whatever it might be and not have any of them believe.
Right.
But then that doesn't necessarily make you a good surgeon. It just means that you just haven't done enough to see what happens when things go wrong. Because what makes you a good surgeon is when things go wrong, then you know what to do with it. But if you have so many things going right all the time, you have nothing to build on when things go wrong. Whereas if you're used to dealing, nothing to go back and be like, oh, this is what happened this time. So let me go back and do what I did there to get out. So I think it's really important that you just keep going and don't stop.
Things have kind of changed now since Brexit with my accreditation abroad. So would you still recommend studying abroad now?
Yeah, I think Hungary still retains its European accreditation. And the accreditation is always changing, because I think it wasn't too long ago that America wasn't going to have it as it was.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're still like that now.
Not anymore, but it was good.
But that was like in jeopardy, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
It's always changing in flux. I think the most important thing is getting the degree. So I get a degree, but this, like I said, when I was applying it, I used to think that the UK was the be one end all. There's vets needed in multiple countries. Try and get a degree, and then you can always build your experience or find a way in afterward, right? But people come from other countries all the time to have to work here, so it's not the end of the world if you're going abroad. But if you're trying to get a degree, no, I still recommend that going abroad. So.
Yeah. What would you say to students who are dead set on attending their like dream vets? Do you think it matters?
So my dream vet school was University of Liverpool. Like, that was my dream vet school, because they had the most work experience. I thought it was the hardest to get into. No, I guess the question is why you want to. So we need to tell them the why of why I want to go to that school. Is it the name, the prestige, the location? I think you might want to get into a dream vet school, but I mean, getting into it, a vet school is an accomplishment in itself. Like, you guys that are here and obviously you're living my dream. It's my dream. Like I said, I can come here and sit down and give you advice. So you're living my dream that I want to be, and obviously So I think it's just getting into the best schools the most important bit. Yes, there are certain best schools that give you more resources and things like that. But again, the measure of how much of a good vet you are going to be is not necessarily the best school you're going to, but your personal attributes, what you hold. You can go to many shiny best schools if you want to, but if you're not willing to do the work, you can't help but think the way they want it. Right, so.
That's really insightful. Thank you. So, that's really especially important for people going through that right now. Moving on from vet school into like more the real world, like clinical practice. Have you ever had a case that really saved you emotionally?
Like every single one. There's so many cases. When I was in undergrad, the big thing for me was I would write down in a notepad all of my really complex cases, the cases that weren't like straightforward, things that aren't difficult. And I'm very much, what I love about being a vet is being connected to people's lives and their story in their life. Like, pets make up a big story in our lives. And I think when you're a local vet, you play such an important role in the story of people's lives. So it was very, like, you're very emotionally invested in this job. So a lot of it was like spending time with people. And I remember so many cases, there's so many cases I go through where I was so emotionally invested. Like I had one where I think her name was Heidi, and she was a Cocker Spaniel. What had happened is, and I guess I'm going to get that in the case story. Yeah. but what had happened is that you get, the owner comes in on Monday and says that her daughter, who's like a 6-month-old baby, has been coughing through the weekend and all. They went to get most A&E and then put the daughter on the antibiotics and stuff like that. And the dog sleeps in close proximity to the daughter and whatnot. Dog's like, she had 2 dogs. She had a Jack Russell and a Cocker Spaniel. The Jack Russell was coughing and producing a little bit of phlegm and seemed to fire. Whereas the Cocker Spaniel was coughing, but at this point started coughing up blood on the Monday. And she was coughing up like jelly like blood. And I was like, this is crazy. What's going on? I remember this with the new girl. I was like, what's going on? Why is she coughing up blood? And I remember sitting there talking with her and trying to get the history and all this stuff. So people tell you so much like information about their own personal lives, about their pets, and that the daughter was sick, and that she really wanted that the dog is giving something to the daughter, the daughter gives out to the dog, and that the other dog seems to be fine, but this dog is now whatever. And we get more and more history on the dog, and I said, look, I want to do a test, and I don't know how to approach this. And I coughing up blood, that's really serious. And she's still cried, but it's just coughing up blood, and we started going downhill. And then we start doing all the different tests on her, and we find out, that she had with us, poisoning. So we find out that she got into like rat poisoning because she's had dog cats, because she feels and find rats and stuff. And then we gave her the vitamin K tablets and she was fine. And I did that 2 weeks. That was my first time diagnosing this, and my first time seeing this as a case. I was like, this is it's scary, man. And I was like, and I can remember this like throughout the time. It was my first time to start with vitamin K, and like, vitamin K helps clotting because the rodenticide poisoning takes away the clotting factor. And you're like, so in theory, the vitamin K is going to help us, right? But what if I don't what's on? And what if it gets like, the GCV or whatever? And it was like, whoa, what's going on? And like, and so I'm calling every 2 days and be checking in on her all 2 days. It's like, how's your daughter doing? She's like, yes, get better. And that's what they do. She's like, it's better. And I'm like, I think you see about the 7-week check, you see about the 14-day check, sorry. PCB's getting better, looking good, they're no longer anemic. Like, I fixed my first case, and that was like one of those cases that kind of slipped with me because amongst all of that, there was a lot of heavy emotion attached. I think that's the big. Sometimes you talk about clinical cases and stuff, but you forget about the emotional aspect of it, what the owner's going through, why they're scared, why they're nervous, what they're worried about in their lives. The fact that she's worried about the daughter and her dog, and she might lose her dog at the same time. There's those kind of cases. So there's that kind of case. And I've got some of my most emotional euthanasias, like one with the Rottweilers. Every time it's a Rottweiler, it's always super emotional. Yeah. I don't know why. The Rottweiler case is always so emotional. I remember going to a house visit and they welcomed me to their apartment, and we all sat in their living room, and the old dog was there, and then we did it together. Sorry, I don't want to keep going. It's terribly good. But one of the biggest cases that I did for euthanasia was a Saturday. I was working my first Saturday shift, and I was scared to be left alone big Saturday. And my boss was like, "Don't worry, buddy, you're okay. Like, do stuff." I was like, "Yeah, okay." I remember towards the end, I think we closed at like 4, and around 3:30, Bear comes in. Bear's a Labrador. A 12-year-old and maybe like 13-year-old Labrador, super disheveled. He has like a triple coat. There's a double coat. He has a triple coat. And he's like, hair is like proofed out. Like, it's crazy. And he's all over, and he's super fluffy. He's a bit obese. And he's on the like tummy side. And he's pumping, he's panting into the car, into chaos. And I'm like, oh, Bear does not look good. And like, yeah, he's not been good for a little while. He has not seen himself as typical. We pump an ultrasound terrible with him. Sorry, I'm exactly when I'm home, I can kind of see that his spleen is bleeding, and there's like blood filling up his abdomen, and I'm presuming that there's a splenic mass there. Like, it's not really a great candidate for us to do surgery. And so I start to just next steps. It's not looking great stuff. And they don't really have that much money, and they're more rural and a bit more practical. They don't want to let things to ongoing. So just like, yeah, I want to put to sleep. I want to do it now. And they're like, could you actually do a home visit for us to them? And I was like, oh, we close it in like 10 minutes. Right. But like, the balance there, what it was just to be again. I could take a van, I could follow you to your house, and we could do it at your house. Like if you could, that would be great. And I felt like that could be good because this consult room was tiny and the walls are dark and there was nobody here on a Saturday. And it was me and that person, and maybe I think I had a nurse. So I was like, okay, you guys jump out and I'm going to take there, and then I'll follow you. Follow them through the village, get to their estate. They feel like I pull up, and their estate, they've got there's a house on a massive hill. And then they've got so much grass there. And you can see the coast up there, and you can see windmills in the distance. And they have this field of land. It was like daffodils or like dandelions. It's just there's so many of them, like they're just blowing in the breeze. And there's this massive tree in the middle of this field. And you can hear they've got sheep in the background, and the sheep are bleating. And Bear just jumps down from the van like nothing happened. He runs into the field, and he just runs around in the field. And it's like this picturesque, like painting scenery. You see, like, you can see the windmill, you can see the water. I think it's the Isle of Sheppey you can see, and you're like, well, this is crazy. And like he runs out into the field, there's this massive tree. And like, it's springtime, so everything's a little bit green. And he's just running out into the field, and nothing's happened. He just does a little bit for a little while, and he kind of just runs back to us. And like, they have their back door, the patio, kind of like next to this garden. And he kind of just sits down next to us. He's like, thanks, ready. And he sits down, he lies down, and he's always like, he is ready now. And I started putting in the catheter, I put the stuff in, and then we put to sleep there. And he passed so peacefully, and they said they're going to bury him out there in the garden. And I was like, this is crazy, because like normally I'd be like, just put some pep to sleep in the practice, but like when they asked for a home visit, the fact that I could follow them home and give the pet the release in something that wasn't scary, that was familiar in the serene massive environment, it really touched me. And that was that kind of thing of like, if people do ask for a home visit, use brain, then I would always do it. Things changed a lot after COVID, and I just stopped doing home visits, but that was like, that really stuck with me in that moment of how sensitive the euthanasia process is. Mm-hmm. So yeah. And I could go on and on and on.
That's so special. And like, I think it just really goes to show the kind of connections that we can build with our clients.
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time. You're a big part of their lives. When you're a vet, you're a big part. And I think some vets don't realize it. You're not hyping yourself up enough about what you're doing. Like, what you're doing is so important. Undervaluing it, what you're doing. Like, don't undervalue what you're doing, especially like as a single vet, sole charge. I'm really responsible in the community sometimes, And so you're a part of so many people's lives, so many people look to you for that advice to them through difficult times. And so you play a key part of people's lives. So that connection is super strong, and you can got lifelong clients that have just always messaged me because they found my Instagram, and they're like, and they did mine, and like, you must come and visit, you must stay petite. And I'm like, how did I ever get to you? Like, I get opposite of London right now. But stuff like that, and it's like, even though I was like crushed last week, and a woman came to me, she's like, sure, my friend's practicing, you help me with my dog, and you help me do this. And I was like, yeah, we did it. I'm like, yeah, we do that. And then guys were like, what was that? She's like, oh, just a client. It's really important. Like,
yeah, so looking more broadly at your career, then, how did you get started as a locum vet? Like, what does that mean? What's that process like?
Yeah, so locuming was always a scary thing for me. It was very scary. Even when I was doing it, I remember, I'm going to leave full-time work. Will I really be able to keep up the shifts? And like self-employed, and tax situation was completely down. Like, what is this all about? But one thing my parents even said to me, because they're both consultants in their own perspective, but they were like, well, once you go to self-employed, you kind of never want to go back. Because you're self-employed. I think full-time gives you that security. But sometimes when you're self-employed, you start to realize the freedom that you do have for your everyday decisions. The reason why locum was actually birthed out of combination. Social media increasing and my television might increasing, but also be burning out.
Yeah.
So I just need to take a step back from work. So when I was doing TV stuff and social media stuff, and all that stuff was very like to last minute. Can you do this? Can you make this video? I was like, I need time to think. When you're full-time work, you don't have enough time to think. So I said I'll take some time off, and then I realized I just needed to be able to plan my own schedule. I think part of burning out was not being able to control my decisions. Be able to have control of what I wanted to do. Part of taking that control back was worth me. Mm-hmm. And like me, kind of, you can sign with agencies, or you can work somewhere about different practice owners, and you just kind of look for shifts. And there's always shifts going because everyone needs them there. And so that's kind of how it worked for me. And it works really well for me. I'm looking potentially to go back into full time, but I still enjoy a lot, like, you know, like couldn't balance it with a lot of the other stuff I'm doing. Like I wouldn't be able to do this podcast if I wasn't open, you know what I mean? So it's stuff like that where I can control my time to tell you that allows me to be a lot freer.
Is that when did you do it through an agency, or is this like on your own through word of mouth?
Yes, I do on my own through word of mouth, but I also have agency. So when you can call different recruiters and stuff like that, and they also in touch with lots of practices, and then they put you in touch with their practice, and then through the development practice, they get a cut as well for every specific work. And if you go full time with the practice, eventually they can also get a big bonus. But yeah, I do a mix of both. Because I have my page as well, I reach a lot of people as well. So people do reach out to me like, oh, be with this area, even that area. And weirdly, I have a really big network. Oh, what can you help us cover this? And like, yeah, sure. If it works out my diary. I think the biggest thing for me before I was locuming was making sure that I had all the jobs or all the kind of skills under like surgery, under my belt, was comfortable in most consult situations, emergency sort of stuff on my front. And feeling comfortable to just kind of, because with a locum, you're just dropped in the deep end.
Yeah.
Got to figure out the good system, got to figure out the workflow, and just go for it. But just being comfortable with that takes a little bit of experience.
How did you get into like the Instagram side of it and stuff like that?
Yes, I mean, so Instagram and TikTok were things that I built kind of like simultaneously at the same time. And the reason why I started building them was at the same time doing a lot of TV stuff. And the reason I got to TV stuff was because Daniela has been the student recommended me forward for TV stuff. And she said they reached out to her. She said the first question for me. She said that my way, I did interviews and then also doing TV stuff. At the same time, I was like, oh, I should build up like future development. And but a big thing for me, and I still remember my first post on my socials on Instagram was like, the reason why I'm making this page is because a lot of my friends don't know what I'm doing, but also I just want to be able to share everything I'm passionate about in the attempt that it'll make somebody else just as passionate about it. And it just kind of kept growing from there as a posting stuff, posting content, posting about my life, posting about cases, posting all stuff I'd seen. And, you know, my friends would be able to get an insight into what I do every day. And TikTok was very much like COVID times. Everybody was at home, bored in the house, and I'm in that house bored. I had to look at the channel for back then if you showed a little bit of a symptom of scratching very thin, like 2 weeks isolation. Like, whoa, and that was my holiday. I only booked a holiday for March 2020. And that got cancelled, so I already had a week of holiday. And then my throat was itchy, and I was like, stay on me. And they were like, no, stay on me. No, guys, you're on board now. And that's how I got it. And so all that sort of stuff that was just kind of building, and before you know it, like, TikTok kind of started building, and I had to go back to work, and then I started doing stuff like all those that was back when the glam bottles just started. I made a rampant glam vodka inside the pack. Because the fact is, there was hardly any cases, and then it started becoming like emergency only cases. Then it was like, okay, now we're seeing vaccination. It was such a weird, undocumented time. And it had to be filled with something. And so, yeah, there was just like slow trickle of like vet life through TikTok. And then I started doing day in their lives, and I started reaching more and more people. That's just kept growing from COVID.
Last time you were on, you were kind of just starting out your social media journey. How has social media changed since then? And then, like, what kind of ways, or like, how have you tried to keep up with it as well?
Wow, that's a really good question. Where did you start? There's so much that has changed. Like, I think during COVID, a lot of things were very much like, this is new, and this is trending, and jump on trends and just post this and do whatever, you know, and that was one side of it. And then I think through like this like influencer wave, not just that, but just in general, like there became a real fight against misinformation and disinformation. So that's like, you know, people want to hear from experts and hear expert opinion. And the good thing about being a vet is that more qualified to talk about real stuff. So I could give information around subjects, whether it's breeds, or whether it was like diseases or cases, I could give that kind of stuff. And then also there was like a period where vlogging became a bit more like prominent. So there's a lot of vlogging and like, come with me, get ready, it'll be there, like, talk with me, so you're doing this. And I was doing something like that, I'm necessarily to come with me, just like day in my life, but it's whatever. And day in the life was, and it's still a big thing to be fair. I think where there was with TikTok, and the reason why I kind of shifted away from TikTok is, well, TikTok was very much random. Like I felt that I was building the community, but then it just wouldn't show it to people that were following me. It wouldn't show it to the existing community, whereas on Instagram, personal. Like, all these people actually know me, they never interact, and they will re-engage or reconnect with my stuff. Whereas TikTok's sort of like, somebody like, oh, I did that. I'm like, guys, we talked about this. Like, what's going on? And so it became like that. And then now I think social media is moving in the direction of communities.
Okay.
So building communities and ecosystems around yourself or creator. I think that's a big side of that. Because I think whole idea of echo chambers on social media grows because we will follow each other because we have something in common. I think that's building that forms communities and that forms its own sphere. So people have different circles of the internet. So I think there is a big focus on that. People just try and find alignment and belonging with socials. I think there's a lot of focus on that. And now I think social media is shifting slowly to like two ways. I think there's an avenue for higher polished, refined, like good value content. There's still the kind of middle ground, which is kind of what I do, where it's just it's okay, it's okay, just make stuff, just doing stuff like just going in between. And then there's just like kind of just churning it out like for it's AI as well, or just my that kind of thing. So I think there's just a mix of. So the internet is so fast right now. I think we're getting into this stage where we're almost overloading. Like, where do we pay our attention to? What do we pay attention to? But I think big things that people are just trying to find groups to connect to, place to talk, and feel like, oh, this person represents me or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that answers the question. So.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Definitely.
The internet is like so big, with, like so many different personalities and opinions.
Yeah.
How do you think spotlight criticism?
Yeah, the internet's huge. It's hard, I think. Sometimes I just don't even have time to entertain. Because sometimes I'm just so busy, I'm like, I just need to work. Like, I'm eating too work. I think it's very important that when you're on the internet as well, that you're conscious of what you're doing. I think that helps you as well. Being a well-rounded person is important if you're going to be on the internet. I think it's really important to be able to listen to voices of different communities that aren't like yourself. Because the internet is so good at putting you in an echo chamber of what you're used to hearing, it's very important that you take time to read and learn from groups that are nothing like you or the polar opposite of you. And like kind of work your way around those different views until it gets back to you, just so that you have a 360 view of what's going on, so that you realize that you're not reinforcing yourself. Because like I said, there's going to be so many opinions out there. So how do you decide what the truth is or what's right? Because everybody's going to feel like they has their opinion. Like, a great example is everything that's happening with crust right now. You know, I've talked to people that are working with their breeds, and they're like, yeah, but my breed is this and the breed sign is this, and because of years of like their own confirmation bias. And then you've got the vet community where I'm like, well, actually, it's not like this, you know. And it's like a typical example of like a dog which is severely, like, you know, a bulldog or a French bulldog could go to a practice, and the vet might say, oh, yeah, your dog's healthy, just in autopilot without acknowledging all the underlying conditions. So something like that where it's like, okay, well, actually, as much as I know that you guys are so invested in the breed and you really want well for dogs and you want this, but you guys are missing the underlying points where this dog has an ectropion or an entropion or a body confirmation means that it's going to get this disease or this disease. So there's all these kind of different bits that factor in, but then it's almost like trying to understand what these perspectives are. So I think you just have to be really well-rounded and like spend time listening to voices that are your own, and then taking in that information. And that's kind of how to handle that. I don't know. I was taking this to the I just I was crying. I was like, nobody's going to miss it. No, but I mean, just don't take it too deep. Like, it's not too personal. I mean, everybody's going to say something, like, and you can't get everything perfect. You can't do everything perfect. So,
yeah. So what sort of advice would you give to, because we have a lot of students now that are like developing their own like vet accounts, stuff like that. So like, what kind of advice would you give to them on how to pursue that and stay confident and keep up with their social media presence?
Yeah, I'll say the big thing, especially if you're a vet trying to do it, I think the big thing is knowing that we are science-based people. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to say some things online, have something in the background. Don't always have to engage with that talk. Sometimes it's not even fruitful. Like, I remember the first time I did a post, like it's like a 10-second post on those sounds, and it was like a trailer sound, and it's like, don't you rough cats, like that thing, don't you rough cats, you know, there. And some American lady into me, and she was like, oh yeah, that's rough cat. These guys have made sure this guy doesn't care about them. You can't by himself, but he's narcissistic. So I even putting in my comments that all these weird ladies abusing me, and back then my followers were really engaged. So one of them just piled onto her page and like, oh, what are you saying? Like, which was on I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And then it's just turned into back and forth because I got something about like, well, it's like page 3 of the British Feline Association or whatever. Like, it says we know it's bluffing because it's like a bullying tactic. It's not proper handling. And then she started going on, oh, you don't on TikTok. And I told her, she called me some horrible names. I still have on the video somewhere. It's like, upper Karen, like, she was like clapping me on, like her face was still swollen up with anger and rage, you know, about why she's so viciously mad at me. But I just blocked her, and because it didn't feel, when I engaged with that account, it didn't bring me in. It didn't do anything. It didn't even vindicate me when I was like, oh, well, actually, I'm mad. Like, it didn't vindicate me. It just felt like I was like just going down to a level to the fight. And sometimes I just feel personally, I don't always just engage with stuff. I have some friends who are really good at engaging and going back and forth with me. It just doesn't, you're never going to see my point of view. Like, I can say it, but it's just like, I'm getting jumping over again. I'm like, what's the point? So if I could just stay true to myself and stay true to what I think is true, then I would be quite not. Having to just back out, but just not engaging. It's hard. It's hard. When somebody wants to say that about you, would be like, where? Your problem. But like, you just make yourself in, and if it's really affecting you, right now somewhere else.
Right around piece of paper, couple it up.
Exactly. Burning.
Yeah.
Like, this is you. Or back to voodoo, you want to be like getting it. I'm going to be on it in this. But yeah.
So following on from that, do you have any like tips to remaining confident with an online profile?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is staying authentically true to yourself. But not only that, is just kind of like being consistent, having evidence, and not being disheartened. Like, it's not a metric thing. Like, you know, sometimes our numbers right now are shot all over the place because different companies will come in to help me live and do that, and they want me to run this and that. But I'm like, it's not the numbers that I'm here for. It's stuff like when I come to the college, like, and you guys tell me, oh, I pushed this video, or I've done this, and I actually do this. And I'm like, oh, that's it. I didn't even know anybody cared. So, you know, so there's sometimes when you do something, like, you forget quickly. And I've like done stuff where I've had stuff with tens of millions of people. To be honest, you don't want anything going bad because when they do this, like, you get all these weirdos, and it's just not fun. But when you think about, I mean, you could be reaching or impacting on big things, just like, I'd like to tell people, you could do this. I just like, if I think you could do it, I'd rather show you how I did it rather than be telling you how to do it. So, but a big thing for me is like not following the numbers, and like just being the authentic version of myself, sharing what I want to share. And if it does reach somebody, it does inspire somebody, how I want to see them. That's what I like to ask for, really. So that's how I keep it.
Like, following on from like social media, how did you get into business? Because like most vets just stay into like the clinical environment side of it. Can you tell us a bit about the transition into the business side of it?
Yeah, I was joking with my friend up there on that. I was telling me, hey, how's that on BC? And they were asking me like, oh, yeah, how do you get into business? Like, how you business? I was like, what? Yeah, I'm just out in wickedness now. And I've always been a very lateral thinker. Like, I've always been very like, how do we solve problems in general? Because we don't problem solvers at best. But how is it solved? But what are the mental models that we're using to solve the problems? And has somebody solved the problem of our landscape or another profession? I found the first time sitting down with my friend who's an engineer, and he was like a senior lead in their team, and he was talking about stress and strain, and like how they would check in with their employees to see, they give them a questionnaire, you check in to see whether or not you're completing your work, and how much you're completing your work, and it will tell you if that employee is overloaded or underloaded, and if they have the capacity to do more work, or if you should take back some of their work so they can complete their work to a higher standard. Now, like, this is stuff that we have to apply in medicine, right? And it's stuff like that where I'm like, you know, thinking about, even like, if there's a mental model, there's certain different mental models, right? And Shay Parrish has a book called Mental Models, where you can understand, like, their mental models of ways of thinking so that you can deduce an answer. So like a great example is Occam's razor. I love people who know Occam's razor. Occam's razor is basically the simplest explanation is the most likely explanation. So the whole thing of when, you know, people say, when you hear news, think horses, not zebra. Like, the simplest explanation is that there's a horse walking down the street and not a zebra. No, it's the same. So many other ones, like, so not about examples, like, from the parts of the brand. That's the mental model. And it's basically like, if you look at the tube map and you were to try and use that when you were driving in London as a way to navigate London, you'd be pretty lost. You have to remember who the cartographer was, why they designed it, and what the purpose was for, and not just go with it in like willy-nilly. Like, you need the proper map for the right things you could do and the right tools. So those are like mental models. So these are all things that help me like think laterally, and like reading books from other like professions and other places help broaden my mind. And I think from that, I kind of just extrapolate those things back to my life. And that's what those things that allow me to expand laterally. Because I think there's one way you can, so I don't know, you can get deeper in very medicine, for example. So you can go, become a diplomat, become a diplomat, become a professor, become like, certain my body's double board certified. But it's another way of expanding naturally and using your skills to expand. Especially as a vet, you're so well rounded. You can apply your knowledge in so many aspects. And I think first I started looking at social media, like, I went to this school, like, surely I can study social media in a similar way, like, how does it work? And that's how I started doing social media. And like, through that, I started working with brands. And I was like, what is the brands doing that's different to what I could possibly do? So there's that, and like, so work with brands and all, and then I started learning stuff, asking questions. And when I'm in different rooms, I'm just like, okay, this is how you film this, and this is how you talk about this. And I've been to different podcasts, and I'm like, this is how I'm getting ideas now. But why don't I try it? Try it. It doesn't work, doesn't work. And if I'm on it, so then I start seeing different opportunities. And so like, for me, you guys are business, but like, what we're doing, let's set to something that's a recent business venture for me, and that's an extension of brand work. And for me, it's just a natural extension of life from that. I've been working with lots of brands for years, trying to reach out to me. It's a product that I really think is valuable. And it makes sense for me to be like, okay, let's work this out and do more to help people through this. And it's just like, I've got the tools through my experience to be able to use that.
Do you think business is for everyone in the veterinary profession? What do you think it takes to pursue that?
Ability to step back and be like, you don't know everything, and I'm willing to learn. I think it's not for everybody for any medicine. I think you have to have a stripping of yourself. You have to come down to be able to go into business, I think, because you have to be like, I don't ask this and ask the right question.
Yeah.
Like, all of a sudden, I'm now talking to accountants how to do this. And they're like, actually, you need to sort this out and do this. It's better. I'm like, okay. And then I go to different lawyer people, like lawyer people. I go to lawyers. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe I'm okay, guys. And I go to lawyers, and I'm like, talking to a solicitor. I'm like, does this mean I have a solicitor? Like, and I'm talking to them for advice, and they're explaining stuff to me, like, but you should do this way. Then I have an agent who helps me with like branders. I kind of got a little team going now. It's legit. It's a bit scary. Like, how does that work? So I don't think it's for everybody, but I think it's for anybody that's willing to learn. Like, I suppose that's most of us now, really. I think after a while you can get closed on. So I think you should never be afraid to try. And if you fail, you fail. Like, I think it's the biggest of my so we'll see how we do. I'll try my hardest to stay true to myself is the most important.
Beyond business, earlier you mentioned like some of the TV opportunities you've had. Have you had any like challenges with that or in my lights?
Yeah, look, even with business and TV, all of it's a constant challenge. I'm constantly learning because I'm entering it a lot of things for the first time. The biggest challenge for me is that a lot of these productions or brands have their own agendas, right? Whether it's to make money, whether it's to be the most viewed, whether it's to, be on air for as many seasons as possible. And all those things require certain things like controversy, whatever. Like, that could be really difficult nowadays. Like, guys, I just want to be honest. I don't want to be in the drama. I'm not trying to get somebody to come back to me and say this, that, but like, the big thing for me is like always negotiating that. So sometimes with TV, I have to be very strong on voicing my opinion. Like, I don't think that's not that's not something we should do. And sometimes I might take a back seat. You know what I mean? So I'm still balancing that, and I think it's very important that sometimes you do have to put your foot down, but sometimes you have to be like, sometimes you can maybe let it go out and see what the response is. And then, that's probably not really bad. But I think that's the hardest part for me is trying to voice my values because I really find my heart of a person, of being able to like speak up for myself. Like, this can't run. I think that's really important across the board.
I like to so far?
Yes, highlights. Being on national TV is always like that. Like, I have a friend that messaged me that like did in the gym and like lovely weekend is playing. One time I was finishing church and I went to Morrison's just to buy like a protein shake. Some woman came up to me and like a really big, like Scandi, Swedish kind of actor. She was like, "Oh, you're Dr Bolu." And I'm like, "Oh, hell yeah, I didn't have it." That's crazy. She's like, "I'm just in London for the weekend." I'm like, "I walk into the store." I'm like, "Really?" I was like, "That's insane." So those are like cool things. And every now and then, like, people on the street might stop me. And, highlights of like when I come to do stuff like this, it'd be nice, like, know who I am, or even want to hear some advice. There's a more highlights, or like last week I was at Crafts and there are a lot of things across that are wrong, but I had a really good day with this. I was with Carol, I was with the team that I worked with for such a long time. We're doing a lot of stuff and it was like, I get to do this. Like, that's so cool. Super highlights of it anyway. And hopefully I've got some trips coming up that are highlights. So yeah, there's a lot of highlights. I could go up, it's just the beginning of homework. Like, this is cool. And the fact that I get to practice at the same time.
You can have both. It's kind of a different question, but I guess why do you think representation on television, like both as a vet and honestly as a minority too, like it's really important?
It matters. It is so important. Because I have no representation. I think representation comes in so many different forms. It's the exact person that's like is doing it, or someone that's come up from a similar upbringing to you, or somebody that speaks similar to you and has similar difficulties that you may have, or somebody that even considers your perspective in life. I think all these things are really important because it gives you strength to be like, okay, if they can do it, I might be able to do it too. Mm-hmm. I think that's the biggest thing about like role models should be real models and they should be real people. Someone that have done like women that do getting having difficulties. They're not perfectionists and they're not affecting themselves, but at least you can see there's people doing it. And I think that's why representation is so important. Not only that, I think representation and diversity is important because it has, the more we include diverse thought, the more we include people from different backgrounds, different margins of oppression, different factors. Like, when you consider everybody, and I think it's fine for people to talk about like, that's being the might and being liberal, but all a liberal person really is somebody that really just cares about everybody and wants everyone to be included. I want you to start leaning to the fact that you want everybody to be included in cases for, especially being the most vulnerable person that you know. Is it not somebody you're not liberal, but you are thinking about that person. I think that's why representation, why diversity is so important, because you have to factor in so many things like for other people so that the people who are most affected in life can have a better flow forward. Because if we're looking after the people that are most vulnerable or least represented, then we're doing okay as a society. If we can actually run things, whereas if we're not, we're just serving ourselves.
We have a creative session. What's your dream show to be on?
Dream show? Oh, to have a dream show? I don't know. To have a dream TV show. I don't necessarily have a dream TV show. I think what would have been really cool would have been just like growing up, seeing David Attenborough like nature documentaries, or Steve Backfield go into like nature and like, there's some stuff. I used to tell guys on a secondary school teachers that if you ever catch me on TV one day looking for an exotic fact and it's on rainforest, just not me. You know what I mean? It was like, well, I wasn't the Amazon. I was on TV doing it, but I've been on TV doing stuff. So it'd be really cool to do that kind of stuff, or just like see how the nature documentaries film from finish really involved in that. I don't think I have a voice for the but who knows? I won't look it. But like, that kind of world would be really cool. Yeah, I think that would be really cool.
We were saying it'd be really cool to see you on like Survivor or something.
Yeah. I like when that's what's around.
Yeah.
And like I always took my brains like, in the world, like, I like to play games. Like, I watch enough Walking Dead to figure out, you have to get my resources and stuff.
I need to like ramp up. We've got some advice, like for students. How can students stand out when applying to vet school?
Well, I didn't know because I did everything. I still got pretty negative. I had 52 weeks of work training. I aced my AA. I had said my personal statements. My personal statement to like everybody. Like everybody said, "Oh, you're good to go," and I still be getting there. So, but feel authentic to yourself. Also, do it for you. Like, and then maybe the university might not see you, but probably the worst best. Got rejected. So.
I guess then what kind of advice would you give to students currently in vet school?
In vet school, shadow where you can. Shadow where you can. and ask questions to as many senior vets as you can. Listen, take advice, build a stockpile of evidence and advice, what they struggle with, how they struggle with, ask questions, how they come to their decisions, how do they handle things, how do they do surgery, like the watch, really be a sponge and let your students do your time and be a sponge where you can just see and try and get to what you can do as well. So I do it more confidently.
What sort of mindset helped you get to like where you are now?
Growth mindset. I think that's like the basic answer. It's like, so trying not to be, because I think it needs to be in a scarcity mindset, especially coming from like a minority background or a lot of things very much like I can't feel, like, the can't be a failure for a rainy day. But I think a big thing is that you have to think of abundance, and there's so much opportunity out there. Everybody can have space for this. So you being willing to go out and take the leap or projecting your dream, it's not detrimental. It's everybody's get it. You know what I mean? Put yourself out there. There's lots of opportunity there, so just keep yourself out there.
For those that are currently considering veterinary medicine as like a career path, what would you say, I guess, what sort of attributes should they possess? And what would make them successful in this kind of career?
So being stubborn helps. I mean, everybody, there's a little bit of stubbornness, like trying to, like, it's maybe not stubborn's not the best word, but resilience.
Okay.
You know, pushing for it, getting up every time you get knocked down and striving for it. Wanting to learn is also a big thing. So humility, wanting to learn and really being able to sit down and realize, look, I don't like this. I think honesty helps as well. Like being honest helps to know your intentions. Being hungry for more knowledge, I think that's a really good trait to have. Like, oh, I really want to know how this works. And you're trying to question things and do that. And I think there's an element of like understanding processes, but maybe that's more personal. Being able to just follow things, like have processes and logic to support your stuff and putting things together, like thinking ideas, how to make things work.
Are you working on anything else that's exciting?
Can I say so? What can I say? Watch this space. I think Lisa Sense is the big one that's happening. There's a team working behind that. See, our launch date is getting pushed. It's supposed to launch this week. Might not launch this week. Might launch next week. It'll come when it comes. So I think in the background, and definitely want to welcome something that I have some assessment plans myself personally that is coming both in the social world, TV world, and real world. And hopefully fingers crossed I'm aiming going my way into the Himalayas, getting that mission. Yeah, no, to be honest, I'm just the vessel. I just want to be used and abused. Just let me know if there's something I can help with, and then I'm happy to help and do stuff. But yeah, there's always something exciting. I just need to make what I'm saying, I guess. But yeah, Good Wolf is coming up. Good Wolf is in May, and that's a big festival of dogs and dog lovers. That's really great. I'll be talking at that in May. That's always fun. I love that. Yeah, that's about it.
Sweet. Awesome. To finish things off, we have some rapid fire questions.
Not rapid fire.
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to talk too much. I'm anything you have to tell me. It's like I say, lock me. Come on.
Okay. Who's dramatic? Cats or dogs?
Wait, who's dramatic?
Who's more dramatic?
Cats. Cat.
Favorite breed to treat?
Oh, what about that?
One thing every pet owner should know.
Brush a dog's teeth. Or their cat's teeth. Yeah. And yeah, or they have brush its teeth.
All the teeth.
Yeah.
But what is your go-to drink at work?
Water. So yeah, I was just a H0 guy. Water.
Then you should know being a vet.
Being a vet. Yeah, student life is fun. But I like having the dog money.
Surgery or consultations?
I really like both, but yeah, surgeon.
Favorite snack during a long day?
Who knows? Because we said person pigs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, from circling. I don't person pig. No, I call it. I'm struggling. The day's like, I haven't eaten any pigs. Give me the person pigs. Give me the person pig. The maple ones as well. But yeah.
Right, yeah.
Oh, they're waiting.
One word to describe that life.
It's multifaceted.
Funniest pet name you see?
Funniest pet name. Oh, there's so many like silly ones like, okay, but let's start. Yeah, that was the reason why, because she was supposed to be called Molly. And then they found out Molly was a boy. So they told their daughter or their son to be named. They said, oh, we call them Molster, but they smelled it for Lester. So I had to go to the work out, we name like, for Lester. She's like, nah, I guess it's very right now.
God.
Yeah.
I was like, what is your most used phrase in the clinic?
I would always say, people were like, yeah, but not really. Yeah, but not really. It's like, what is the answer there? Yeah, but but no, but yeah. So yeah, I use that a lot.
Like, if you weren't a vet, what would you be?
Great question. At the moment, there's some things that interest me. I think it'd be cool to be an electrician. I think it'd be cool to be a chef. I think it'd be cool to be a finance bro. I don't know. There's some things that I'd be like, this would be cool. I don't know. Like, this would be cool. I think it'd be cool to be like an actor marine biologist sort of thing. Paleontology is pretty cool. I could keep going. Like, I'd love to be a guy that's like really handy. Like, I love making build stuff, like carpentry and stuff. Like, that'd be great. But be a painter. Sorry, yeah, this is just
I'm like, your career.
I just get so much. Maybe director. Like, it'd be great. Yeah, some jobs.
Finishing off with a crazy one. If you're created for a celeb, do you go on?
No, I've been to ask about this sort of stuff before, and I'm like, we can't do this, guy, because they abuse animals and how to live. Come on now, people don't think about that, but they do. Yeah, they like all the animals, the poor animals are in there. There's a whole campaign about like stopping them. Like the animals are in there, they're not having a good time. They've got a bunch of snakes in a box, and somebody's seeing little rats in there. Oh, fun. So yeah. There you go, guys.
Some reflection there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Bolu. That's been super informative. And thank you for listening to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
To learn more about Animal Aspirations and the work we do, please visit our website at animalaspirations.com. And don't forget to follow the podcast so you don't miss out on future episodes. Educate, inspire, not resist.